Welcome back to another live stream, folks. It's been a while, and today we're going to compare the promises President Biden made when it comes to changing Social Security benefits and compare those to what he's kind of promising now, his message he's giving now, right? Let's compare what he promised on the campaign trail compared to what he's really pushing now, right? And a lot of headlines came out saying that one thing missing from his budget proposal is a plan, a solid, significant plan for Social Security benefits, right? And this includes increasing spending and increasing taxes tied directly to Social Security benefits, not in this plan at all, folks. And we're going to compare that to what he promised on the campaign trail. We're going to look at his website here. These are things he promised when he was campaigning. Obviously, we've seen Social Security benefits has come up a lot in the midterms. Since the midterms, it continues to come up. Bernie Sanders really pushing for the Social Security Expansion Act. Some Republicans saying they wanted to cut benefits, but then Republican leaders saying they don't. So there's a whole ton of things here, right? So we're going to take a look. As always, guys, do me a favor. If you guys are here watching the video, drop a comment below. Let me know you're here, and let me know if you like this live stream. Typically, these live streams have gotten a lot more views than my normal videos. My videos get like 5K views, and my live streams have been getting like 30,000, 40,000 views. So if you guys like the live streams, let me know in the comments. Let me know you're here. I try and typically respond in those comments. So go ahead and drop that comment there. Again, if you really want to support my work, guys, watch this video to the very end, right? If you really want to support my work, tell YouTube you like it by watching all the way to the end. And these live streams tend to be a little longer than my normal videos. Well, a lot longer, but hang in there with me, folks. Anyway, if you watch my videos, right, or if you follow Social Security benefits, you know that President Biden promised a lot when he was campaigning, right? He promised to do a ton of increases, especially for folks who had smaller benefits, right? So for people getting benefits below the poverty line, he promised to increase them across the board to at least 125% of the federal poverty level. For a lot of folks, that would be over $1,000 a month in an increase if you were getting a small benefit, right? So that was really the biggest one. Then on top of that, he promised a variety of things. First of all, to be funded by increasing taxes on folks who make over $400,000 per year. And this isn't just some specific tax, like above and beyond everything else. It's really just making them pay into the payroll tax like everyone else does, right? And eventually, kind of everyone would pay as that threshold goes up. Like currently, you only pay into it if you make $160,000. He wanted to add in $400,000 and above, so there'd be kind of this donut hole here. But that $160,000 threshold goes up every year, so eventually everybody would be paying into it, right? And that would fund this minimum benefit, right, of 125% of the federal poverty level, which would have been the massive increase across the board for lower income folks. It also came with a plan to provide larger payments for a lot of other people as well. Widows typically, you have 2 Social Security checks coming in when you're married. Unfortunately, your spouse passes away, you're left with 1 check. So he wanted to put a plan in place to really boost that 1 check left. So it wouldn't be as much as the 2 checks, but it would be a lot more than, currently what stands when people just get the 1 Social Security check. He also wanted to increase benefits for older seniors who have been on benefits for 20 years or more, dealing with more health issues and things like that. So really, all of these things on his website here, right? And it's really hard to see here, but he wanted to do a lot of these things across the board. He also mentioned increasing SSI. Obviously, we all know kind of the heydays of the pandemic when he promised to do the $200 per month boost with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and all these guys. And then currently, even though that seems like a long time ago, which it was, now we have Bernie Sanders pushing for the Social Security Expansion Act, which essentially does the same thing, right? But it would make it permanent and fund it by increasing taxes even further for people who make over $250,000 per year, right? So these are all the big changes President Biden promised. At least these are the main ones, right? This is the bread and butter of what he campaigned on the campaign trail, right? So President Biden made these massive, massive promises, right? So where do things stand today, right? What is President Biden pushing for? And I want to make things really clear. This is not to attack President Biden. I'm not picking sides. I typically like the plans that he put forward when it comes to Social Security benefits. But let's take a look back at what happened over the last couple of years, right? And one thing I learned from following all the stimulus check updates and making all these videos for you guys is when Democrats or any party really want to get something done, right? So let's ask ourselves, do they really want to get this plan done, these increases done? When they really want to get something done, even if they know it's going to be tough, they push it as far as they can, right? And what I mean by that is, for example, right now Democrats control the Senate and Republicans control the House. So they know even if they pass something in the Senate, fat chance it passes in the House, right? They have to cut some kind of crazy deal, really long shot that would happen in the House, right? With Republicans controlling the House. But if Democrats really wanted to get it done, like they've done before with previous stimulus packages and other things, of course, but I really over the last couple of years saw them do this with stimulus packages, is they'll approve it in the Senate or they'll bring it to the floor, they'll fight tooth and nail. If they can approve it, they'll get it approved in the Senate, then they'll push it to the House, right? And even though they know Republicans aren't going to approve it, they'll put the pressure on them. The news stations start covering it. CNN, Fox News starts covering these stories saying, oh, the Senate approved this Social Security package and passed it to the House, right? And it really controls this narrative. That's not happening, right? And that shows us that personally, I don't think they're pushing for it hard enough, right? And let's take a look here. I want to show you guys this clip here. This is really the tone that President Biden and Democrats are taking. They've gone from really pushing for all these plans to increase benefits, to make all these changes to Social Security and potentially SSI, from that to basically just reverting to their tried and true message of we will protect benefits, basically lowering the bar from expanding benefits and changing benefits. Now the bar is getting lowered again to we're just going to protect them and keep them where they're at, right? So let's take a look. This is a couple of days ago, President Biden did this big speech about investing in America and Medicare, Social Security, unions, and things like that. But let's take a look and see what President Biden said.
I won't allow them to be gutted or eliminated. My budget will not cut benefits, and it will definitely won't sunset programs like some of my MAGA Republican friends want to do. It'll secure Medicare through 2050 and beyond, ensuring that the vital program keeps going strong for generations without cutting a single penny in benefits. Let's be clear about another key point in my budget. I will protect Social Security and Medicare without any change. Guaranteed. I won't allow them to be gutted or eliminated. My budget will not cut benefits, and it will definitely won't sunset programs like some of my MAGA Republican friends want to do. It'll secure Medicare through 2050 and beyond, ensuring that the vital program keeps going strong for generations without cutting a single penny in benefits. Let's be clear about another key point in my budget. I will protect Social Security and Medicare without any change. Guaranteed. I won't allow them to be gutted or eliminated. My budget will not cut benefits, and it will definitely won't sunset programs like some of my MAGA Republican friends want to do. It'll secure Medicare through 2050 and beyond, ensuring that the vital program keeps going strong for generations without cutting a single penny in benefits.
Okay, so the one thing he did mention was in his budget, he does include a plan to increase taxes and lower prescription drug costs for Medicare to make Medicare last a little bit longer, but nothing about Social Security, right? And he basically is just saying, we're not going to cut benefits. We're going to protect benefits. That's a massive difference. And this video is from a couple of days ago. That's a massive difference from what he was promising back in on the campaign trail, right, in 2020, and what he was promising the first couple of years of the pandemic, right? You see here, it's still on his website, the Biden plan for older Americans. Now he's basically just saying, we're not going to cut benefits, right? And it's really a shame that the least they could do is really push for this a lot harder, right? When you see over the first couple of years of his presidency, he goes from promising all these massive changes to now, well, we're just not going to cut them. Like, let's just be happy with that. Like, are you really happy with that? Like, are you really happy with now the status quo is just not getting the benefits cut? Like, that's completely ridiculous, right? Now, of course, politically, this is easy for them, right? This is kind of like the thing Mitch McConnell does, where Mitch McConnell, instead of having a plan, he just hates on the Democrats' plan, right? So there, you can't really poke holes in McConnell's plan because he doesn't even have a plan. He just makes you scared of the Democrats' plan, right? And this is basically what Democrats always do with Social Security benefits. They never fix the actual problem, but then they just come out and say, well, Republicans will cut it. We're not going to cut it, right? So they really just lower the bar. Like, should you really just be happy with your benefits not getting cut? Or should we be talking about expanding them like President Biden promised on his campaign trail, right? So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. But a lot of headlines are circulating talking about the fact that his budget plan, remember, they have to do this annual budget. It's got to get done in the next few months. If it doesn't get done, the government could shut down, like we talk about every year. Never ends up happening. But, nothing for increasing benefits or increasing funding to Social Security by increasing taxes to Social Security. Nothing like that was included in this budget plan, just showing us how the bar has really been shifted from, doing all these massive changes to now President Biden is just saying, well, we're just not going to cut benefits. You should be happy with that, right? Now, this article I really liked. It says, here's where things stand on the debate on Social Security and Medicare. And basically, to summarize here, is it says there's a scattered Republican message. And what they mean by that is there was a lot of lower level Republicans who had these different plans, right? Like Rick Scott said, let's sunset all federal programs, which really ended up meaning let's sunset Social Security as well. He backtracked on that, but you know what? He said what he said. Then there was a couple of other plans Republicans had to fix benefits, but really it wasn't really a good fix because what they want to do is increase the retirement age to like 70. I mean, for God's sakes, eventually they want to increase the retirement age to like 100, for goodness sakes. So basically a variety of plans from Republicans, but then Republican leadership coming out like Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy in the House coming out and saying, nope, we're not going to do anything with Social Security, really just being like, whoa, 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 we're not doing anything with Social Security, right? They're trying to just kind of do damage control here. So really that's why it's a scattered message, right? But we all know at the end of the day, I mean, you can't lump every Republican into this, but a large majority of them, they want to increase the retirement age. They just do, right? And that's not good, right? I mean, when you're working until you're 70, 72 years old, I mean, give me a freaking break here, right? And on top of that, really what's happening in the background here is Republicans are pretty much happy with what Democrats are doing because Democrats are basically saying, you know what? Now the status quo is just not cutting benefits. But what's going to happen in 10 years when the trust fund runs out of money? We already know, we've talked about it 1,000 times, benefits will have to be cut because the trust fund right now is paying somewhere around 25 to 30% of benefits every year. If the trust fund runs out, people's benefits are going to get cut by 25, 30% by default, right? Which is, what a lot of Republicans want to happen. Now, where do the Democrats lie, right? So Democrats, like we just talked about in this video, are labeling or positioning themselves as protectors, right? Protecting your benefit, keeping the benefits how they are, right? Basically saying either we're going to protect them or they're going to cut them. Really lowering that bar there, right? And like I said, that's just not good enough, right? But that's really what they're defaulting to. And in the midterms, well, first of all, in the last presidential election, it worked well for President Biden, right? Which we know seniors are the biggest voting group in the country. But then he didn't follow through, right? Then it came back again in the midterms. But instead of making promises, they started reverting to this idea of we're the protectors, they're going to cut them, right? Changing that status quo, lowering that bar. And basically that's probably what they're going to do in the next election, the 2024 presidential election. We'll have to wait and see. The problem is they've really stopped promising to increase benefits partially because the stimulus era is basically over, right? You still have some little things at the state level, at the county level. There's always these programs, right, for people who need help. But the stimulus area, quote unquote, it's over, right? It's long gone. The last stimulus check nationwide was, 2 years ago at this point, I think it was. And on top of that, we have inflation, right? So anything that has to do with putting more money into the economy is politically really, really difficult for anyone right now, right? Because then you get the other side, Republicans in this case, saying, well, you're going to cause more inflation, right? This is why we got inflation in the first place. So Democrats are really pivoting from saying, oh, we're going to increase benefits to, ooh, we're just going to protect them, keep them where they're at. To them, it's a safe bet, right? Because they can't get blamed for causing inflation. They still kind of take the stance of helping seniors, but they're not really going that extra step to increase benefits like they promised over and over and over and over. And the article says here too, Biden leans into messaging ahead of 2024. So there's no ifs, ands, or ands about it, guys. I mean, the Social Security and retirement benefits, it's going to be a massive issue in the 2024 election. The question is, are we going to believe them this time, right? Because they always promise, even former President Trump promised to do something with Social Security. You remember that, right? That never happened. Basically, it seems like most presidential elects do this, and then nothing ends up getting done, right? So is the same thing going to happen? Are they going to come out? Is President Biden going to come out against probably Trump, right, who's probably going to run? Are they going to both say they're going to increase benefits or just protect benefits, and then nothing is literally going to get done again? We'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. And really quickly, I want to share this clip from Bernie Sanders. As we know, Bernie Sanders, one of the biggest proponents when it comes to fixing benefits, not just Social Security benefits, but also SSI, SSDI. Also, just in general, trying to create a better retirement for folks when it comes to 401k programs, Medicare, right? Making things more affordable for seniors who work their whole lives. So typically I like to make dedicated videos for Bernie Sanders. I might make a dedicated video on this one. We'll see how good the clip ends up being. But I really just want to share this clip with you guys. It's been a minute, so let's just take a look and see what Bernie Sanders had to say.
To get away with it. And I support what the president is doing.
You support what the president is doing. All right, let's talk about the book. It's okay to be angry about capitalism. Why did you think now was the time for this message? And why okay? It seems like you feel that there's a degree of resistance to the idea of any criticism of the golden goose.
Look, Tony, this country faces enormous crises, and it's important that we have a serious discussion about those crises. Economically, what's going on in America? Simple reality is the people on top, the billionaire class, are doing phenomenally well. Meanwhile, the middle class continues to shrink. And in the richest country in the history of the world, today, over 60% of the American people are living paycheck to paycheck. Virtually every city in this country has a major housing crisis. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. We spend twice as much per capita. Meanwhile, drug companies making billions. The insurance companies making billions. The gap between the rich and everybody else growing wider. We don't talk about those issues. Let's lay it on the table. Let's have that debate.
You talk about those issues. You lay them out very well here in the book. And you say things that we had heard from you on the campaign trail many years ago. But I think what the American people struggle with is how do you change a system that appears to be broken in so many ways?
Okay, well, let's put it, that's a good question. And the answer is this system is working very, very well. For the people who own this network, for the billionaire class. We are involved in class warfare. People on top are doing great. So it's not hard to come up with the idea. You want health care for all? Duh. Every major country on earth is doing. I live 50 miles away from Canada. You have leukemia. You're in the hospital for a month. You know what your bill is when you get out? Zero. As a nation that's spending half what we spend per capita.
So you look at taxing billionaires, for an example, but what other solutions are you offering?
Well, in terms of health care, look, just think for a moment. If everybody in America today said, you know what, when I'm sick, my kid is sick, I go to the doctor, I don't have to worry about the bill. All right, you know what that would mean to the health of this country? If people did not have to worry about sending their kids to college and what it would cost them. If people didn't see their housing costs. We are the richest country in the history of the world. We should be discussing is, why don't we have health care for all? Why isn't college education, at least public colleges and universities, tuition free? Why do we have a gap? Do you think, does anybody think, America, 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society? Anyone think that's appropriate? Let's talk about it. What do we do about it?
And you're saying that the system is working the way it's intended to work.
Exactly. It's working great for the billionaire class.
No doubt about it. Now, you introduced a bill last week with Senator Warren that would not only extend Social Security, but increase benefits. Right. Now, do you believe that by taxing wealthier Americans that you could get some bipartisan support on this bill?
We'll see. But when we talk about the problems of America and why we're not solving them, please don't forget that this political system is corrupt as well. All right? So if you are a member of Congress, and you were put into power by some super PAC owned by a billionaire, you think the first thing you're going to do is say, I think billionaires should pay their fair share of taxes. I doubt it. So you got a corrupt political system. I know that sounds harsh, but if super PACs can spend unlimited sums of money to beat you, is that corrupt? I think it is.
One of your proposals in here is actually to rewrite parts of the Constitution to make changes. But the guy at home right now, even the guy not doing well sitting at home, might be saying, yeah, but you're acknowledging that this system we have has created more wealth than any country has ever had in the history of the world. Tremendous innovation, things you acknowledge in the book, and now you're talking about changing that. I get, or tweaking it.
Tony, it has created enormous wealth for the people on top. You tell me, in this great nation, I grew up in a family that struggled economically. We lived paycheck to paycheck. Why today, in 2023, over 60% of the people living paycheck to paycheck? Why? Let's talk about where we want to go. And I'll tell you something else that's happening. With all of the artificial intelligence, the robotics are out there. Who's making those decisions, whether you're going to have a job or not have a job? Are working people involved in? So all that I'm saying in this book, in that this age with all...
I actually really like that commentary on the artificial intelligence. I think government should be controlling artificial intelligence development like they controlled cloning, right? Because it could have massive impacts on our society, right? Not just given like a Terminator-esque, global takeover from artificial intelligence, but just like losing jobs, right? I mean, this could be catastrophic. And if you lose jobs, then you have even less money going into the Social Security Trust Fund, right?
All of the technology out there, all the wisdom out there. Let's create an economy that works for all, not just the few.
I want to ask a question about Jimmy Carter here, but on AI, it is current tax policy in this country that if companies buy an AI system, it's a capital investment, even if it lays off workers, they get a tax benefit.
You're right.
Encouraged by the system. I imagine you would want to change that. But
we would.
You're saying tax robots.
Wow,
That's right.
That's scary.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So not only are companies incentivized to try and get robots to do humans' jobs because it could potentially be cheaper, but they're also incentivized by the tax code, right? Because let's say they buy this. Let's say this is a robot. They buy this, right? Let's say it's $1 million. They can then write off $1 million on their taxes and reduce that as income which they would have paid taxes on, right? You can't do that when you hire an employee, right? So not only are companies incentivized to replace humans with robots, because it could potentially be cheaper. On top of that, it could be even more cheaper because of the tax benefits. That's
Jimmy
a huge
Carter,
problem going forward, and that could
just a
affect
core
Social
of
Security.
decency and
You have less
modesty.
people working,
Didn't
less people
serve on
paying into the
corporate
trust
boards.
fund.
Went back to his hometown. Didn't go to live in some giant mansion. Didn't give high-powered speeches worth a lot of money. Regular guy, not a quote normal guy. Seems like a regular guy in real life. Your most memorable encounter with him, if you could, sir.
Everything you said is true. I mean, he was a good president. I think what people will remember.
All right, guys, for those of you just joining, we're comparing what President Biden promised, right? These massive changes he promised, obviously on the campaign trail. And now we're kind of doing an update. What's happening now? What is President Biden promising now? What is President Biden pushing for now? What's his message, right? And to really get you up to speed here, if you look back, we already know what he promised before, right? Obviously, there was the $200 per month boost, which was kind of a pandemic era program, but now we have Bernie pushing for that exact same thing, essentially, but even better, making it permanent in the Social Security Expansion Act. That's just Bernie Sanders, right? We don't have Biden pushing for that either, right? Of course, we assume he'd be all for it, but we don't see him actually pushing for it, right? Then when he campaigned, President Biden promised all these things that we talked about across the board, basically bigger payments for a lot of folks, lower income folks, widows, folks who have been on benefits for 20 years, things like that. But now he's really changed his tone to essentially just being the protector to not cut benefits. And that's a bad thing, right? That's a bad thing because essentially we've gone from the status quo being increasing benefits to now the status quo is we're just not going to cut benefits, right? So for those of you just joining the video, that's really what we're talking about here, right? And it's really not the greatest situation to be in, especially because we have all this inflation going on. So Democrats have really decided, at least in my opinion, that it's really not a good idea for them to try and keep increasing benefits because then Republicans are going to come out and say, well, you're just going to cause more inflation. So really President Biden has really reverted to their default, just basically scaring you into saying Republicans will cut benefits, Democrats are just not going to cut them, and basically you should just be happy with that, right? So if you compare President Biden's website, this is the website, and it's funny, they're still asking for donations here. This is the website from when he campaigned. Biden's plan for older Americans. All these things we talked about just now are on this website still, right? Increasing benefits for everybody, things like that. But in his budget proposal, which is coming up in the next couple of months, nothing for increasing benefits and nothing for increasing taxes, which would pay more into Social Security, right? So that's pretty much where things stand now, folks. And if you watch this clip here, it really embodies basically the stance that Democrats are currently taking on Social Security, right? That reversion to just saying, we're just not going to cut them, right? And you should just be happy with that. So let's take a look.
Let's be clear about another key point in my budget. I will protect Social Security and Medicare without any change. Guaranteed. I won't allow them to be gutted or eliminated. My budget will not cut benefits, and it will definitely won't sunset programs like some of my MAGA Republican friends want to do. It'll secure Medicare through 2050 and beyond, ensuring that the vital program keeps going strong for generations without cutting a single penny in benefits. Let's be clear about another key point.
All right, folks, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Just a quick update on where things stand as far as the changes that were promised, where we've come from the promises back on the campaign trail, everything that's developed, and where things stand today, right? That's really the tone. That's the message Democrats are pushing. We'll see where things go. I mean, at the same time, we do have, most Democrats reverting to that message, but then we do have Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren pushing for that Social Security Expansion Act. But like I said earlier in today's video, if Democrats really wanted to push for that, like Chuck Schumer, right, leader in the Senate, President Biden, if they really wanted to push for that, they'd bring it to the floor, they would get it approved in the Senate, and then push it to the House, even if they know it's not going to get approved. That's what they always did with the stimulus packages, right? Even if they knew something wasn't going to pass, they'd get it done in one chamber, and that would be a victory, right? It'd be all over the news. People would talk about it, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. It'd be the narrative, right? And then they would put pressure on the other chamber to try and pass it. Even if they didn't think it would, they'd keep hammering them. It'd be in the news. At least it passed in one chamber. Then maybe they could negotiate and get something done. At least that's a kind of a compromise or something. That's not even happening, right? So although we have Bernie and Elizabeth Warren pushing for that Expansion Act, which has that $200 a month boost and, more taxes to increase funding into the trust fund, we don't have at the highest level, right? We don't have President Biden, obviously, at the highest level, and then Chuck Schumer in the Senate really pushing to put that together on paper and approve it in the Senate, right? Which would have its own challenges with Kirsten Sinema, as always, and Joe Manchin, but it's not even coming to that point, right? So that's really where things stand today, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. And as always, if you guys made it this far into the video, if you've been watching this whole time, thank you so much for supporting my work. The best thing you can do if you want to support my work is click on the videos. When YouTube shows you the videos, click on them. That click shows them that you like my stuff, and then they'll promote it to more people. And then if you watch the video all the way to the end, it tells people, wow, you really like that video as well. And again, they'll show it to more people as well, which really helps the channel. And guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. You could watch anything in the world here on YouTube, and you chose to watch this. So I really appreciate you. With that said, I hope you guys have a good day, have a good weekend as of making this video, and I'll see you on the next video.